of hangs around. Now watch the clerk grab for the knife, and when he does, the delivery driver decides he's in on this act too. If you notice,
let's see how possible it's going to be and how much I can actually pay attention to the task at hand. So I'm actively watching the exact kind of material that I used to love sharing, but will immediately get a claim or get you a strike. Big YouTubers like Donut Operator, that his entire channel is based on his commentary on active pew-pewing. I don't know, for lack of a better term. And he's had to go as far because of the censorship, how hardcore YouTube has come down on trying to. What's up, yo? Pooh. DJ Bricks in the house, cuz. Good to see you. Good to see you. I wanted to ask you, and hey, no time like the present. Does your boy have like a podcast thing going on? Please feel free. I'm sure you still have my number, my email. Reach me, text me, whatever you can. I want to be up to speed. Okay, real quick. Yeah, that was quick. But, I don't know. It's still an extension of the first, but it's different. Jack, Cindy, my son's life mattered. Hello, Shabbat Shalom. So this one, I really want to be kind of a one and done, and just for the sake of fun. Some of the movies that I was mentioning, I figured, hell, okay, I won't get a strike playing trailers, or will I? And I figured, yeah, maybe I don't see this as too big of a risk. And thank you very much, Queen Survivor, always on the A game. What is the thing, though? Yeah, YouTube. First, okay, let me get this off my chest real quick. I've been watching hearing after congressional hearings. I don't know. I have my go-to sources. What I'm absolutely just shocked about right now is our boy Rand Paul bringing it to him. And by them, unfortunately, I have to be put in a position where I got to say mostly Democrats, although there are Republicans that are being greased just as much. Rand Paul is spent the last 2 years trying to get to the center of why COVID happened. Okay, he just finds it insane that everybody's like, apparently, allegedly, not that they're not using that term, but I'm doing that because I have a little channel here. Millions of Americans have died from COVID. Why aren't we doing more to assess where this really happened, how this happened? And everything that was being laughed at and everything that made us ostracized as a civilian, as a citizen, is accepted as no longer conspiracy theory, conspiracy fact. Never thought that would be a term in my terminology. Hey, Independent Men United, welcome. Share that page. There's a great community right there past that name. If you get to that link, please feel free to post it. So I've been watching all these hearings, and it really, first off, a name I'm even nervous to say, but I refuse to be on a platform that touts the First Amendment in any shape or form. Fauci makes me sick, okay? Sicker than I was when I actually had COVID. Mr. President, birthday chat supervisor, just remembering, when I get to getting over there again, whenever the time is allotted, I'm always going to have some stuff that's going to be a little more off the cuff than it is here, where I actually try to be a little bit careful. I think the last, really severe putting Fauci's feet to the fire kind of dialogue or questions happened 1 full year ago, unless I have just not looked with a fine-tooth comb enough to find him being held accountable for his reckless decisions and the whole gain of fun. He was basically wrong about everything, and now we know that, and I'm quoting Rand Paul, he was not corrected. The scientific community is no longer 100%, by the way. Now it is on record as being 50-50, which is basically a half-assed way of saying you guys were right with your skepticism from the get-go, but we don't want to give you the W. So, yeah, essentially the reason we had the vid, here we go, YouTube. How many miles from the actual Wuhan lab, some scientist decided to reach 200 feet down into a cave. I could play the clip, but why not regale you with my just barely working memory. So a scientist literally reached down into the earth, into a bat cave, 200 feet down, and they found an existing virus And they went ahead, and what all Rand Paul has been asking and saying is, for one, all right, let's explore the why. Why did this all have to happen? And also he was really bringing to the attention, why are we funding all of the things that have apparently done so much ill to us as American citizens? I see Steve Harloa, that's another amazing man in community right there. D. Libby, that's family. Karscar, that's an OG. Sly, what's good, playa? Okay, so let me try to think back as to where it was the people that we would expect with the titles and the degrees and the position, the money, and the whatever, to know the answers to the questions that were being asked. We're giving the most half-assed answers. There's people in the position of authority that are plainly admitting that they'll forward 200 documents that are completely redacted. How is that in any shape or form giving our representation, our representatives, the information that we want, that we need to better understand why things happened the way they did? So something is very, very shady in Wonderland. I mean, not that we all are shocked that there has been you know how many FOIA requests have been sent over to the people that apparently have the answers? And Fauci would not. Oh God, I'm only going back and thinking as to what I was watching. And while I was watching, I wasn't thinking of just having it ready for you guys here. But I can assure you, if you look this stuff up, or Forbes, I know it's mainstream, Forbes channel, there's a lot of different channels that show the hearings completely just not messed with, and you get to hear the natural dialogue. Fauci was asked by a Republican leader how he was so convinced that the Chinese scientists he was working with were not at any time telling any lies. And hey, Tumult, I think I remember you, and welcome back, and thank you. Thank yous are always awkward for me. Just thank you and welcome. So, okay, you know what? The whole thing, I said this is going to be movie stuff, but here I go. Okay, let me see while you're watching me, or let me do it this way, because I want to show you some of the things that I've seen. And here's the trailer I was going to show initially, but Fauci being asked, how can you be so certain that a scientist working for China, who is literally indoctrinated to Xi Jinping's, communist doctrine, China's communist doctrine, and how can you assume that they would just put science in front of their country? And Fauci even went so far as laughing at this man asking just an honest question. And I could only sadly recall about 4 representatives. They all happen to be Republican. I don't want it to appear that I am just becoming a Republican cheerleader. There are still compromised Republicans being greased by Big Pharma, being greased by, any large corporation or lobbyist, because it is in our system. It is completely legal to pay politics in this country. Our system is the problem. Our so-called leaders are the ingredients to this problem. They're the bacteria in the swamp. Russell Brand did an amazing thing at kind of breaking down. See, and I worry about playing him because he talks eloquently and there's a lot of big words, and I think we talk kind of similar, even though he's way out of my league in terms of vernacular. But there's so many things being brought to our attention, and he was making a pretty interesting kind of analogy about how Trump is still being used and against his own base. Okay, so as far as I know, and his last video that's titled "It's Happening." What's up, Jeremy? Good to see you. What's up to you? Seeing y'all, especially kind of consistently as I try to do this a bit more, is a godsend. Nothing short of it. Okay, so rewind. Where was I going? Okay, Fauci. Oh, goodness gracious. I can't hit rewind. Gain of function. No. Oh, the Trump thing. Okay, so Trump is indicted. He is indicted. Everything is sealed. So when do we get discovery? When does his team get discovery? We can only speculate that it's all to do with hush money and Stormy Daniels. So first off, you have to question the entire system. Okay, tell me a single politician from any age of any century that would have the clean bill, the clean slate to actually prosecute another politician for putting hush money on some sort of relationship. Go ahead, I'll wait. You can even go as far back as the founding fathers, okay? Now, I know Ben Franklin wasn't a president, but he was certainly a ladies' man, okay? Just this has kind of become part of the American culture, which is our leaders, they like to get it wet a little bit. That probably sounded terrible. They would like to get their wicks wet. That made it sound even more terrible. But why is Trump the one that's going to be sought out and brought to justice? And this is the justice. We're calling this justice when everything that is happening has happened. Seems to, I'm tired. I don't want to use the term falling to the wayside. We're conscious of it. But every time you hear a byline, a headline, or some pundit or talking head utter the word Trump, it gets your attention, doesn't it? So whether they be using it for good or for ill, to slander him, to destroy his character, for one, I think they're shooting themselves in the foot, and they're absolutely going to help Trump get a second run. If their goal is to actually stop Trump from running a campaign, that's going to fail. What I'm fascinated to see as we, the American people that are already exhausted, we're exhausted at seeing how effed over we all are day in and day out, while the players, we're not even the players, we're the pawns, get to always laugh all the way to the bank. We had to go on a lockdown. They got to go to resort hotels, have birthdays televised, and just it couldn't be any more obvious that there's two dueling worlds. And it goes as far as a 1% and then the rest of us. And that's one thing that I saw that was kind of similar with Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, both somewhat outsiders. Some may argue, you know what, thinking back to the legendary Hillary versus Trump debates, Trump actually said, I'm the one that learned how to take advantage of all your crazy draconian laws as a businessman to the benefit of my businesses. So that's why he kind of pretty much became a very effective president. One of the most effective presidents that I've been able to identify in my lifetime. I think that says something. What do I remember from Obama? I'll tell you what I remember. The day, was I in high school? Was it after high school? No, see, memory. I'm losing it here. When he went on a nationally televised briefing to tell us that people could use whatever bathroom they wanted. That was what was presidentially noteworthy by Obama. Now, I'm sure he achieved other things. I mean, also thinking along the lines of culpability and actual fair play and balance. If they're going to go after Trump over Stormy Daniels and hush money, every politician that is currently employed or has any big pharma or Jeb Bush, Johnson & Johnson, one of their reps is literally one of the campaign, not only donors, but ran his campaign. So if you want to see just how entangled big money and corruption is in our American structure that we're supposed to have trust in, just take no further look than what is happening in the here and the now. So I'm trying to stick on topic with Trump. Just he's being used for better or for worse. It may blow up in their face. But my concern is that could they, and believe it or not, he's apparently polling better than DeSantis. And I'll tell you what, one of the reasons why is because they're still talking about him. They're still chasing him. And if there's anything we've been taught as American citizens this day and age, if you've lived as long as I have on this planet in this country, you know that when somebody's getting got or getting chased or a witch hunt is essentially built and thrust upon somebody, you know they're trying to do something that goes against the status quo. This is why I like Edward Snowden. This is why I like Julian Assange. They were defamed as treacherous and enemies of our country because they did nothing more than want to get the truth to American citizens' eyes. Now, do I put Trump up there with these, like, truly, these are heroes, they put their lives on the line? I think our boy, I guess I'll go as far as saying that, he's definitely gotten to a point where I'm sure he's in danger. But the last thing that any of his true enemies want is a martyr. And honestly, I'd be afraid to be in a reality where we have his constituency, the real MAGA patriots, seeking justice in only a way that an organized and regulated, where I'm going, can get. And there has to be some fear right below the surface with the opposing side that recognizes that and sees what a dangerous game they're playing. And they're playing with our minds, and just right now I'm very curious. They've formally gone along with having Trump indicted. I heard he was going to be arrested. I'm not sure I've heard or seen that he's been cuffed. This is a first, apparently, an American first, but it's doing so many things at once, and also successfully making us all focus in one direction instead of everything else that's happening. For example, I'm curious, please be honest, anybody that's listening to me currently, were any of you aware of these hearings being had about the origin of COVID and seeking justice for the people that were involved and compromised by China, working with China? What a perfect storm and perfect time to get everybody on the same page in terms of, I guess, hyperbole, and get us all, emotionally invested, because people love Trump in a way that I don't think I've seen in the political sphere for a very long time. So they take that fixation. They know that his opposition are passionate, and they know that his defenders and supporters are passionate. So two birds, one stone. Mass media, mainstream media does nothing but 24/7 coverage, just like they've always done when he was sitting president, and now whatever the hell he is, apparently being indicted. We're all focused on that more than anything else. And in the background, we have whatever bills and laws are being written, whatever is really happening behind closed doors. Pelosi's husband with the insider trading that apparently never, ever, ever gets brought into the public eye. We talk about it in passing, but nothing ever reaches to the same amount of passion that Trump's name seems to always gain. And so they have weaponized it. Even if you believe you staying 100% on the up and up on what's happening with Trump and what they're going to do to him, what his next move is in the 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D chess, we're all focused on the one thing, and then everything else is just background noise, and we're not hearing anything and everything else that's happening on a global scale, international, or hell, just national. So just be careful when you find yourself being so enthralled and wanting to catch every snippet and every detail of what is to come of Trump, whether he gets to have a fair shot at his second run, or whether, I cannot pretend to know. And I usually pride myself in being able to kind of tease the idea that I have a good idea of what could be, what is to come, but we're in true unknown, uncharted territory. This is history being made. I cannot recall another president, no matter what the circumstances, being indicted. And just the whole lack of accountability from all the sides that are going after him, not calling themselves out, or the public not calling them out, it's incredible. You can call out the Clintons for every shady thing. The Steele dossier. Why don't we take the Steele dossier, which the media these are the suckers and the bastards that went forward with the Steele dossier and said this witch hunt that lasted about, 6 years, which was all pretty much to ensure that we would have evidence of the collaboration of Russia and Trump's administration. They nailed this Steele dossier down our throats, and until X amount of time passed, when they were shown to never have any merit, it was all bullshit. You can go Google it, DuckDuckGo it, Wikipedia it, and a brief little synopsis at the top right-hand corner is that it was all completely unfounded and we were played. So again, it's like that same tactic, only they're using it again. But what about the people that made it their case to fund that investigation that went nowhere? Where are their names? Where are their charges? Where are their indictments? And the people while we're doing all these investigations into COVID, where are their indictments? Where's some of our public outrage being expressed? I just see Rand Paul and a couple of other Republicans, and I don't see one damn Democrat. And I'm the guy that's been a Democrat for more than most of my lifetime, and I don't see any representation. I don't even know what a Democrat is supposed to stand for anymore. I'm not going to just placate and say, Republicans are the way. They're still greased up too. And damn it, even further, this hurts some part of my soul, because I spent so many years trying to defend what is indefensible. And it's the MAGA base, I think, that really seem to have their eye on the prize. But my concern is, since the media and the puppeteers, those that play with the strings, they know all too well how to rile up and distract the most passionate, politically aware base in America. And that's using his name and putting him in constant danger on the news, on a constant cycle, rinse and repeat. So I think we're getting played under the pretense of thinking we're seeking justice. So there is some kind of Mockingbird, Blue Falcon crap going on. I don't know how to segue from this to what I initially started. This was supposed to be non-political. I was going to show you guys movie trailers. That's honestly, truly why. Okay, all right. You know what? Let me see if I can find the. I don't think it's going to be a movie night. The title is completely. Okay, hold on. Forbes. Let me go back. Matter of fact, if I just go back to my home, I guarantee you will find the website that I've been tapping to. Hey, look, I'm live. I wish I had a schedule. Not really. I can't. No, I don't. No, go back. All right, Forbes is in the name. They're never live, but they have the best clips, collaborations of I hate to admit, man, because I used to be so anti-Republican that there's a handful of Republicans that seem to be the ones that are still trying to keep some of a fight going on. Here we go. Here it is. Okay. We're at the Forbes breaking news. I do recommend. I was worried it would be too mainstream. I thought maybe it would be compromised by Bloomberg, because Bloomberg is a POS that did nothing but jump into the DNC to get Bernie Sanders completely, blacklisted as he did. And Bernie's lost my respect in recent weeks. So let me see if I see something that I recognize that I could share with you all, so you can see what I see, so you know what's going on in the background. It can't just be, as tempting as it is, to just focus on Trump. Oh, I didn't share the screen, and I apologize. I'm doing that right now. What's up, Big Matt? What's up, Big Dog? All right. Not shorts, videos. And I want to show you. It's not about what I want to see. There's what I want to see, and then there's what I want to be seen by all of us. Give me a moment here. How is it that, the good old algorithm is deaf? Okay, I don't know how that can be possibly true. Oh, this Majorca. If you don't know that name, there is no name that will be affiliated better with not answering direct questions than that. We're just going to call it a Majorca. So let's get a sense of what we're watching here. I started, but let me see real quick.
Earlier this week, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Under Secretary Mayorkas' leadership over these last 2 years, we've seen more than 4.8 million migrants.
Going back and forth, I saw Big Matt. You're asking how I'm doing. I'm doing, brother. I'm hanging tough. I'm trying to also assess if you're like one of my best friends, Matt, that I know in real life, or if you're just the awesome supporter that you are on that end. Either way, thank you. All right.
Migrants encountered at the southern border. We've seen deadly drugs pouring into our country, killing more than 108,000 Americans in a single year. And there's no question but that the transnational criminal organizations known as the cartels are fueling the chaos and the destruction. When Attorney General Merrick Garland testified before the
I want you guys to be able to listen through to everything that's being discussed, but it's upsetting me that I can't find the exact content. Is there? Can I concentrate a search? All right, Forbes breaking news. We're going to do it like this because you have to see what I saw. Forbes breaking news. Just put that ouchie guy's name. And now, okay. Oh, okay. Something as fresh as 3 weeks ago. But they like to, I won't say clickbait, but they like to throw his face up there because I don't know about you, but I hear his name and I get very inflamed. I get passionately angry. Testimony alleging Biden administration yes, the censorship. Remember, this is verified checkmark stuff. Whatever, no risk, no reward. That strike I got for reading actual NIH.gov op-eds from actual virologists and scientists. Yeah, let's go right here. This is where I want to be.
First Amendment is the beating heart of our Constitution. The First Amendment is integral to maintaining our Republican form of government and the belief that we are a country of free people, not oppressive government. The Biden administration has led the largest speech censorship operation in recent American history. Since taking office, President Biden and his team have labored to suppress viewpoints with which they disagree. And in doing so, they have infringed upon the...
Because I believe what he is saying is so important right now, as monotone as it sounds, and it lacks the, the gusto of the usual political theater or whatever. This is important because we're finally calling out the people that made censorship the final nail in the coffin of whether you got to have a job or not, or whether you had autonomy over your own body. So I will be in the chat over here while this man speaks. House Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Fed holds a hearing.
The individual freedoms of millions of Americans.
I remember.
And no matter what your political affiliation is, government censorship should concern everyone.
Yes.
The Biden administration has coerced, cajoled, and colluded with social media companies to censor disfavored speech. The Biden team has publicly threatened social media companies from removing legal protections, with removing legal protections, blamed social media companies for societal problems, accused social media companies of killing people, and these social media companies, some of the biggest companies in the history of the world, willingly...
I'll always take a moment to express my gratitude and my thanks. Honestly and truly, all I need is at least 100 people that are receptive to hear me speak, because I feel that there are things at play and at hand that honestly at this point are getting a little alarmist for me, a little fatalistic. But simply put, I'm awkward with thank yous, and thank you for that support, Jeremy. But the only thing that ever matters again is your presence and your attention and your commentary back, our dialogue. And I'm seeing the dialogue playing out, and it's just overwhelmingly one side putting out the FOIAs and the other one is making more fires. Oh, I just did a rhyme.
Took part in this Orwellian, vast censorship enterprise. On multiple occasions, President Biden and his team have threatened to punish social media companies that did not sufficiently censor Biden's political opposition by revoking Section 230. Biden suggested Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg should be subject to civil liability and potential criminal prosecution for not censoring political speech.
For not censoring political speech. I forget how many accounts. I had one account completely banned, and they wanted me to take a picture of my driver's license and submit it to them. Hell no. So I made like 4 alts. Yeah, Facebook is still not much better, but they were getting, they were toeing the line of being complete, like 100% tyrannical, Gestapo-esque fascists. Like every single comment that I was making and that my friends were making were deemed not fact-checked enough by the fact-checkers, or it was decisive, only because it wasn't picked and chosen and washed through the whirlwind of the regurgitated mainstream where we called those of spreading false information. And I'm glad the accountability is being demanded now at some point in our lifetime.
President Biden also repeatedly accused social media companies of, quote, killing people by not censoring enough disfavored speech. The Biden administration has threatened and attacked social media companies so that those social media companies would censor speech the Biden administration dislikes. Until the Missouri versus Biden lawsuit and later the Twitter files, the Biden administration's efforts to pressure and collude with social media companies was behind the scenes.
Oh, by the way, that key word that the Steele dossier continually was, I mean, the whole reason it's there was the mainstream media, three-letter agencies, and I guess I'm going to have to use the term I usually try to avoid, deep state, because it was active against a sitting president. We're all colluding to create the illusion of a collusion between the president and Russia when they had nothing of the sort.
Through meetings.
My dog is really pro freedom of speech, so that he's barking because he knows what I'm talking about.
And emails, and was unknown. On behalf of Missouri and Louisiana, I was proud to join with General Landry to sue the Biden administration for violating the First Amendment through this vast censorship.
This here sue, can I hear that again in slow motion?
I was proud to join with General Landry to sue the Biden administration for violating the First Amendment through this vast censorship enterprise. On behalf of Missouri and Louisiana, I was proud to join with General Landry to sue the Biden administration.
Ooh, did you get the chills? Did you get the chills? Ah, the chemistry in here just got electric, man. Gotta turn on some air. That was hot, man. Hell yeah. Okay. Accountability, go.
For violating the First Amendment through this vast censorship enterprise. This lawsuit alleges the Biden administration, including President Biden himself and members of his team, pressured and colluded with social media giants to censor free speech in the name of combating so-called disinformation and misinformation, which led—
Yes, absolutely right. In plain English, that's what it is. He could have moved a few words here and there and just say this was an absolute attack on our First Amendment right, period. This was an attack on people that just weren't thinking the way they wanted, the powers that be wanted them to think. Like I think he's actually dolling it up, fluffing it up so it didn't sound so erroneous or egregious from the government, but we all know what he's talking about, all right? Biden's administration tried to be a bunch of bullies, and the fact that the entire Biden family is not locked up, don't get me started.
Led the suppression and
is indicted. Yeah, more of that, please.
Censorship of truthful information on a scale never seen before. The lawsuit provides example after example of truthful information that was censored by social media companies that were admitted at a later date to be truthful or credible, including the Hunter Biden laptop story. Is
this a good time? YouTube, with all due respect, YouTube overlords and people that control the algorithm, and, you know, hey, feel free to hit the like button. It helps the algorithm because it's already working against me. I'm convinced of that. Prove me wrong. But YouTube, how about that strike you gave me? That full-on strike that I contested, and literally your explanation was, you're not a doctor. You shouldn't be reading another doctor's opinion out loud. It's essentially the gist of the response. Can we put that on the table too? No, I didn't mean to speak out of term, YouTube. I hear rumbles looking mighty cozy right now. Well, I don't know what came over me. I blacked out.
The COVID-19 lab leak theory, and the efficacy of masks. Discovery obtained by Missouri and Louisiana demonstrated the Biden administration's coordination with social
Same here, Slim.
media companies and collusion with nonprofits to
you see that? I should have recognized this sooner. And it's amazing. I'm sorry that I'm fair using it. I don't mean to interrupt continuously, but Ashley Babbitt, I think a lot of us, you don't really forget something like that, but let's not forget something like that. And it's good to see that there are still people trying to, like, we all saw the video, and the media all but justified everything done from the character assassination to her literal end. They made it look like it was a happy ending to some story that none of us signed up for. So yeah, this would be a good time to refresh people's memory. She went there for a just cause and a just reason. By the way, the QAnon shaman guy was released from prison early today or recently. Just getting nostalgic over here.
Censor speech was far more pervasive and destructive than ever known. Documents reveal multiple White House officials, from the former press secretary to the digital director, relentlessly pressuring social media companies to remove specific posts or accounts or expand censorship practices. The White House wanted posts censored from Fox News host Tucker Carlson, even though Facebook found that the content did not violate its policies. The White House also asked for unfavorable news to be put, quote, in context with specific talking points, along with amplification of Biden administration messages.
Let's say we have a balance, just your old-fashioned balance, just like, the like justice in itself, holding that balance, right? So we had media outlets reporting on anything for the left when it came to oversight and fact checking. It was totally just round wherever you wanted to go. It's like literally whoever was writing the articles had free reign to say and do whatever they wanted as long as it went against the opposition, right? And so if you found yourself on the opposition end speaking truth where it was inconvenient, you had to get fact checked by already greased up and corrupt fact checkers, and it became nearly impossible for us to communicate, which is why we now have our truth socials and our Telegram, because it became that bad. So much so to this day, there's a reason why there is a rumble, and that I hear it's starting to make its rumble. And I'm going to keep saying that until something's done.
Messaging and FAQs. Missouri and Louisiana also deposed.
I've been back for a minute, Steve. Welcome, brother. Welcome, brother.
Dr. Anthony Fauci. This deposition
sorry.
showed
He said that
when
name.
Dr. Fauci, Louisiana also deposed Dr. Anthony Fauci. This deposition showed that when Dr. Fauci spoke, big tech censored. For example, Dr. Fauci was aware early in the pandemic that his agency had funded dangerous gain-of-function research on the coronavirus at the Wuhan lab of Wuhan Institute of Virology. But he's
perjury, by the way. He lied to the American people. He lied under oath. Remember, if you talked about the gain of function or anything, just remember how bad it was, and do not take for granted that it's getting slowly better, because that's the slow drip effect that the mainstream and three-letter agencies always go for, to inevitably make any dissenters of the status quo slowly feel vindicated, and as if we weren't wronged. We lose in all the time that passes the passion that we had that was burning, and they take full advantage of that. There's no secret as to why we're listening to this, 2 years later? So almost 3, just about. So this is all strategy, man. Smoke and mirrors and strategy. Remember how angry we were then, and keep it right now, present day, as the investigations are going on. And keep your radar up and about as everything is being shoved in front of you, especially with the indictment of Trump, which is completely against the judicial system as I understand it. Discovery has not been given, and it's just all wrong. They're playing and rigging the system that's already rigged and played. And we've had enough. How do we convey that we've had enough?
He sought to discredit and suppress the theory that COVID-19 leaked from a lab to deflect blame and avoid potential responsibility for the pandemic. In his deposition, Dr. Fauci claimed 174 times that he could not recall, including about critical details related to gain-of-function research and other issues associated with the lab leak theory and the government's response to
for something that allegedly, factually has been stated that 1 million Americans perished. That's a lot of lies regarding the truth as to the reason being. 147 lies to be exact. Wow.
the pandemic.
But who's getting indicted again?
Because of Dr. Fauci's influence, social media platforms censored the lab leak theory and other COVID-19 viewpoints that Dr. Fauci and his cabal of experts disfavored.
Time Magazine, a shadow cabal. This is an honest to goodness quote. Part of me hopes this man is maybe using a little wordplay. In the Time Magazine, which was the bombshell of all bombshells, CanCon talks about it. Josh and I spoke about it and Stuck in the Middle. They tell us right in plain sight in the most mainstream outlet magazine possible that a quote unquote shadow cabal ensured the security of our election. Now that I don't know how slippery of a slope it is to talk about how I feel about the election, but let's just say that I think J6 was absolutely justified, and I'll leave it there.
Missouri and Louisiana also deposed the FBI agent about the Hunter Biden laptop story. This deposition and relevant documents revealed that the FBI deliberately planted false information about hack and leak operations in advance of the Hunter Biden laptop story coming out in order to deceive social media platforms into censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Mockingbird, in effect, actively, that's what he's talking about. And I don't know, I'm just thinking of the movies I've been seeing recently. I don't see the FBI being shown as being the heroes so much anymore. Or maybe it's just that I've completely accepted that they were never really for the people.
The FBI also flagged social media accounts for censorship.
Big point right there, Slim. You lost everything. Your status, your job, your autonomy, okay, your livelihood if you spoke out about the vaccine. And now one of these very videos on this very page, the Forbes breaking news, talked about some, I got to be careful with this one, talked about some of the children that did not make it. And the way it was worded, this is very dangerous territory, I think. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I'm trying to remember the direct quote here, because children are not supposed to die. That was a literal sentence that was used by this female representative. And she also gave a number like 500 children, all that received the poke. And she said that confirmed that, let me not be loose-lipped, that all of them had to have had, of course, had to, right? They know this for a fact. I mean, if they knew it for a fact, they would have a big old graph and documentation and stats. They said they must have had other immunocompromised or medical issues going on. So that's essentially blame the victim. I need to find that exact specific video clip on this web page and clip the ever-loving crap out of it and just get right to that point where she says that.
On a monthly basis and have an estimated 50% success rate in getting reported disinformation removed or censored. The Missouri versus Biden lawsuit also obtained documents
Thank you, Missouri.
revealing that multiple federal agencies have pressured and colluded with big tech or social media companies to flag and censor.
Oh, that wasn't an accident. Big tech, you had it right the first time. And okay, Missouri, how many other states would actually get down and get in on one of these lawsuits, suing the Biden administration and everything that they've been responsible for? All the draconian, Gestapo-ish tactics and all the shaming. I mean, I think Florida would be down. Oh, and I got some good news. In lieu of this being highly controversial, July 1st marks the first day, a great day in the United States of America for Floridians such as myself, for anybody that owns a concealed carry. And on that day, will no longer require a permit to concealed carry because of our boy, Ron DeSantis. A thank you.
Large number of accounts and posts, especially related to public health and elections. The federal government has even created public-private partnerships.
YouTube, you gonna let me like flash my completely holstered, safe pew-pewer on here and like disassemble it and stuff, or are actually my state laws going to supersede big tech laws? Probably.
To expand its censorship reach. Without the Missouri versus Biden lawsuit and the subsequent disclosures in the Twitter files, Americans would have never known about the Biden administration's coordination, collusion, and coercion to censor speech. President Biden and his administration may lust for its own ministry of truth, but I, along with millions of Americans, will never stop fighting for the God-given right to speak your mind, freedom of expression, freedom of speech. Americans.
Ministry of Truth. That is a actual term from V from Vendetta. I own the book that was written in 78 through the 80s and the movie, and that is exactly what that totalitarian government had, a committee of truth. The people that got to say what was true and what was not. Very Orwellian.
Americans have enshrined the First Amendment in our Constitution more than 230 years ago, for good reason and for times such as these. We cannot allow the Biden administration to infringe upon the freedoms that we cherish.
Jeremy, be careful with that information there, man, because I'll have a whole GoFundMe started, because that's a tragedy. That's a travesty.
That have been purchased by the sacrifice of millions of Americans. Freedom of speech is vital to our country and our people. In many ways, it's our pressure release valve.
It's our lifeline.
We must stop the Biden administration's threat to free speech so that America can remain the freest country in the history of the world. Thank you.
And thank you. So this is the stuff. This is the meat and potatoes. This is the important dialogue that's happening and being pushed forward. But meanwhile, what's on everybody's algorithm, or God forbid you use your TV for actual mainstream media news coverage, what is everywhere and anywhere? Trump, Trump, Trump. Still, even for his base and for his detractors and for the opposition, he serves as a one-size-fits-all distraction from all of this. We should all be way more interested in a lawsuit against the Biden administration and maybe start getting some footing on, hell, I'll start a freaking .org petition tonight. I know I often say off the cuff something and procrastinate, but I'm more than happy to start a petition, Florida-based lawsuit for damages done by the Biden administration, and join along Missouri. It happens in the now. It starts here in the now, from one individual to the next that we can reach. Now it's like, oh, of course, that's why they're talking about Trump and why he was even gone as far as indicted. Even if they know it's going to lead to nowhere, it's an effective distraction to stir everybody in the Coliseum while the real fight, wherever and whatever it is dragging on. Let me see if I recognize any others. Man, I'll get started and I miss. Maybe it's kind of healthy or smart for the algorithm that doesn't always work in my favor if I title it, oh, we're going to talk about movies, and then this will be like Extreme Red Pill with Progressive Patriot. I'm never going to refer to myself in third person again. All right, let me see. Lawyer who took Dr. Fauci's deposition. Review. Okay, hold on here.
Allegations and have no factual.
Mr. Sauer.
What's up, Bornahawk? Everybody check out Bornahawk. He's got a great channel, and he's definitely an advocate of free speech. And I'll go as far as calling him an ally. I think YouTube literally, maybe, like, I can't go as far because I don't think it can be proven, but I do believe, because it's happened before, YouTube does try to mess with diametrically opposed people that come together in one spot. I've seen it with my own eyes, and never forget this tale that I will not let die. When I was in CanCon's home at his studio for the first or second show, and it was after the fact, he had some footage that he was going to be breaking news for the Gateway Pundit. So he was obviously being very careful about what recording devices were near or available. And so we said we had to have a very private, topical conversation. And then his sister or niece, forgive me for forgetting, niece, I believe, came walking up with her friend and offered us some homemade, home-baked cinnamon buns, right? There's nobody else in, and I shit you not, okay? No one else is in his home except me, CanCon, his wife, and those two kids. All right, and when I came home, when I arrived around 2 o'clock in the morning, I saw a comment. And this was back when, you know, the shout out was still kind of fresh, and there was a lot of comments coming in by the thousands. But I had noticed one of those comments was there, and it was some name I did not recognize. I remember it being a female name, so I thought it was maybe the sister or the niece went to check out my channel. I was just there, and the comment was, "How were the cinnamon buns?" Immediately in the morning, I called CanCon, left a message. I texted. He asked his wife and the kids. No electronic devices were in sight. He even turned his phone off. Nobody else could have known about that. And so then I went to look back for the comment, and it was gone. I know it sounds maybe small or somewhat insignificant, but I'll never forget such a strange occurrence in my life, which is why if you check every time I've told that tale, it is consistent every damn time. He's being watched. I have no doubt about it.
To pick it up?
The gentlewoman has not been recognized. I'd like, Mr. Sauer, you deposed Dr. Fauci last fall. In that deposition, you asked him the question, you said, is it important for people to have access to both sides of the debate so they can assess what's good information and what's bad information? Remember that question?
Sorry, real quick, to Stephen, they are listening everywhere. They just can fine tune what is being heard, when it needs to be heard, how it's heard. I mean, it's really just a matter of their own effort. Like, everything is always available. And like the public was laughed at when James Comey admitted that that was the case, because Zuckerberg had a photo with an electric piece of tape over the camera of his laptop. And when Comey was asked on mainstream media outlet, he was like, oh, we assumed, and speaking on behalf of the FBI, we assumed that you all knew we could spy on you through your looking glass, through your cameras, through your phones. That's not how he said it, but go ahead, look for it yourself. He said, no, we assumed that you were aware of our capabilities.
Yes, sir, Dr. Fauci. And here was his response. He said, Dr. Fauci said, well, you know, it depends. If information is clearly inadequate and statistically not sound, there can be a danger in people who don't have the ability or the experience to understand. Mr. Sauer, do you forfeit your First Amendment rights if you can't tell good information from bad information? That's not how our First Amendment works, is it? You need to turn on your mic if you can, Mr. Sauer. Is the First Amendment only those for those people who have the ability or experience to understand?
This guy right here that is being questioned, I've seen him on 3 or 4 separate clips, and I can't really see where he's falling on. This is the lawyer of Dr. Fauci. Okay, then all in all, based on what I've seen, he has stood his ground. I don't recognize this one just yet, so I'm intrigued.
No, it is for all Americans.
All Americans, all 330 million of us, is that right?
That's correct.
Not just for the special people, not just for the super smart people like Dr. Fauci, who worked 40 years in our government, highest paid guy. Not just for them, it's for all of us, right?
Absolutely right.
Even if maybe you don't know the difference sometimes between what's good or bad information, you still have your First Amendment liberties under our Constitution.
Both to hear and to speak, absolutely.
Exactly right. By the way, when you deposed Dr. Fauci, how many times did he happen to say he didn't know or couldn't remember?
He said, I do not recall or variations thereof 174 times, and adding in variations if I don't remember at least 200.
As the highest paid public official of our government and of this country, we're supposed to seem to think that that is acceptable. When the man that is absorbing the most of our tax dollars and getting the largest bribes, we're going to be okay with 174. I can't recall. I don't know. I don't do my job, but I get paid damn well to do it.
112 times.
Wow. Smartest man on the planet couldn't remember 212 times?
He couldn't remember things, including things that he had told the national media, quote, I remember it very well. Then he would say 16 times, I don't recall details.
Okay. Last time I'll say this, I have no doubt in my mind why the indictment of Trump is going full speed, because this is what's happening in the background and we're not paying attention.
Of that meeting.
Now you you were near the top of your class at Harvard Law School, Rhodes Scholar, is that right, Mr. Sauer?
I've submitted a biographical statement.
Yeah. Well, I looked at your biography. It's pretty impressive. Is that pretty high? You've done a lot of depositions. You've done a lot of legal work. You've deposed a lot of people. Is 212 times pretty high?
I've taken dozens of depositions. I've never seen anything like it, including in this case where other federal government witnesses frequently profess inability to recall.
So the guy...
Just tell me if I'm wrong, please. Literally, I got the chat in the corner here. It doesn't sound like this, I guess this was Fauci's lawyer. Key term was, as in past tense. doesn't sound like he's really advocating or fighting on behalf of Fauci. It looks like he's kind of reserved to maybe just telling the full-on truth regardless of the outcome, in which case I'm further enamored and fascinated and even more intent on paying attention to every word this man utters. Imagine what he could tell us that we don't know.
Guy who told us all these things, who's, you know, the smartest man on the planet, he set a record, highest you've ever seen, and couldn't recall, didn't remember.
I've never seen anything like it.
Okay, page 4 of your testimony, you talk about the censorship enterprise. You give a bunch of facts and numbers here. You said Twitter disclosed that 84 government officials communicated with them, or as Mr. Seligman said, gave them suggestions. 84 federal officials gave Twitter.
You don't come from a place of authority and make suggestions. We all know what a mafia enforcer is when he says, yo, I don't think you should stand by that car right there. That's exactly what I hear when a federal employee of any stature for any administration says, I don't think this sort of information is a good look. You know what I mean, Mr. Zuckerberg? Otherwise, you might just, have to sleep with the fishes here. I might have to do something with the sushi because your free speech is too free. Too much speech and you're free. I mean, seriously, nobody from a position of authority makes suggestions. You give orders. You make demands.
Suggestions on tweets and things to take down. 45 officials in the federal government told the same thing to Facebook. Is that right?
They discussed disinformation.
45 authoritarians made the same. See, I understand maybe like one or two make a suggestion. You're like, hey, man, put some barbecue sauce on them ribs. Like, 2 people at my barbecue. If 45 of my guests all tell me to put barbecue sauce on my ribs, I'm going to feel a little, intimidated. I'm going to get that damn barbecue sauce, I promise, boss.
In censorship with those officials.
Yeah, a handful of federal agencies handed over 20,000 pages of documents in the communications they had with these big tech companies. Again, just suggestions, though, according to Mr. Seligman. 20 White House officials were involved in these suggestions to these social media platforms.
That's conservative. It's probably higher.
Yeah. FBI agent Elvis.
Okay, yeah, you were right, Steve. This former lawyer is no fan of Fauci, which makes him such an important figure right now. I need to get this man's full name and everything I can get on this guy.
Chan testified the FBI alone sends encrypted lists to social media accounts, sometimes containing hundreds of accounts and URLs in each list to platforms for censorship 1 to 5 times per month, 500 times a month, 500 different email or websites, everything else they're sending to these social media platforms. The FBI, and Mr. Seligman says, don't worry, that's not a problem with the First Amendment. That's a suggestion.
Yes, over the course of years, that's been occurring.
Election Integrity Partnership, a censorship consortium of academics, think tanks, federal and state government officials, social media platforms boast that it surveilled 859 million tweets, 21,897,364 tweets on TikTok.
That is a lot of oversight, which means we funded it, and a lot of control of the information. I mean, I'm not shocked, but when you hear the numbers, that a hell of a lot of our own money that serves a lot of these individuals goes into them to not serve us, but do quite the opposite, to control us and what we say. And by God, if they can, what we think. I mean, that's what Mockingbird is all about. And we know we have funded think tanks that do exactly that.
Tickets as misinformation. Is that right?
That's correct.
Don, find Jamie Valdez.
You learned this in your discovery in your lawsuit so far.
Correct, Your Honor.
And the Virality Project, a mass surveillance and censorship operation conducted by the EIP, has done over 6.7 million engagements on social media, 200 million. Now, let me just ask you this. Were most of those targets towards conservatives?
Virtually everything we've seen in evidence so far, or at least the vast majority of what we've seen in so far, is conservative right-leaning speech.
But you would be just as outraged. I read your testimony. You'd be just as outraged if it was the other way around, right?
Absolutely. Because
Same here. Because the First Amendment, again, is not just for some people, not just for one political persuasion, not just for the so-called smart people like Dr. Fauci. It's for 330-some million Americans.
This page.
That's how our Constitution works. Is that right, Mr. Sauer?
every single American.
I thank the gentleman.
All right. Looks like Fauci lost himself a very important ally Okay. This is the one where Rand Paul. Is this really one? Okay. Yep. Here it is. This is one of the most important clips I was hoping to find, and it's not long. Thank goodness. All right, we're doing it.
Once you meet with a TurboTax expert who will do your taxes.
You're gonna get to hear just how far your tax dollars go when the people that are in charge are called
When they say
do their job.
I think that's accurate.
Or talk about their
Thank
job.
you, Senator Paul.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, it's estimated that between 5 and 8.
I may largely stay silent, but I have to do the fair use thing, okay? So starting from the top right here, this is an important one.
Chairman, it's estimated that between 5 and 18 million people died from COVID-19 worldwide. To a significant number of scientists, the evidence suggests that this originated from a lab leak in Wuhan. Does the State Department fund coronavirus research in China?
Do we fund coronavirus? I don't believe so, but I don't know. I'll double check and we'll get back to you on that, Senator.
This person is the top Biden official on funding virus studies in China. Okay, her job description is literally what that question is meant for. If there were ever one person to say yes or no, or give an exact finite answer, it would be the person whose job it is that's in charge of all these so important things that we entrust to the people that are getting paid to do these things. And then when the light finally shines, I don't know. I'd have to get back to you. I'm going to go send you 200 redacted pages of nothing. And then you'll send me about, 10 more FOIA requests, and you'll get and earn nothing, not only for your constituency, but nothing for the American people.
Answer is yes, you do. And it's been going on for more than a decade, and it's done through a program called PREDICT and then the Global Virome. And why this is important is we had 1 million Americans die, and we really haven't had any discussion of this. No hearings, nothing. People are unaware that they're even funding the research. We found out recently through the House unclassified report that money is going from the NIH to American universities to the Academy of Military Medical Sciences Research in China. We are subcontracting money and sending it over, but millions is coming from the State Department. So the idea is this: we will identify all the viruses in the world and we'll be safer because we identified them. But here's the question: are we safer to have some guy or some woman crawling down a cave 10 hours away from Wuhan, coming up with bat guano, coming up with viruses and bringing it to a city of 15 million like Wuhan? This is what's been going on for a decade. It's a setup for an accident. It's a setup for a mistake. And nobody's doing anything about it. We continue to fund it.
Remember all of the discontent, all of the anger, every family member, every friend, every loved one that lost so much, if not more, when this thing was doing what it was, which was, I think, essentially being run as a test to see how much they could actually control the populace, in the opinion of this YouTuber. And I'll say allegedly. Okay, that's my final conclusion here. So just remember that when you listen to the rest of this testimony and back and forth.
The main group that's been getting this money is EcoHealth Alliance, over $100 million, a lot of it through the State Department. They continue to get money. They don't file their reports on time. They didn't stop their experiments, and yet we reward them with more money. 15 million people died, and we haven't done a thing about it. Nobody seems to care. We're not even sure we fund it. The State Department's a big funder of this project. It's a multi-decade-long project, but there are scientists, as we speak, from Stanford, from MIT, from prestigious universities around the country. These are not partisans. Most of them are not Republicans.
The people doing this work are also beholden to their lobbyists. They're big pharma. What better business is there? And this is old horse kind of commentary here, or dead horse commentary. But what better funding than to find a virus that only you can treat? I mean, it just, and to leave all of the lapses of security protocol measures that he is going to list. There's no accident here. The only accident is the use of the word accident.
Stand up and say, oh my God, what are we doing? Bringing these viruses from remote bat caves to major metropolitan areas and with no controls over this. So we've been asking for information from the State Department because we want to know more about this. U.S. Right to Know has been sending FOIA requests for 2.5 years, and they don't get anything.
So, Mr. Chairman, I've sent 2 letters. Some of them are 6 months old now, and we get a, whatever, we're not going to give you any information. What I would hope for is that we could have, people always talk about bipartisanship. Could we not get bipartisan support for records? This is not partisan. We want to know what the U.S. State Department.
And yeah, Jeremy, that is not lost upon me whatsoever. This has been going on for how long? And it makes me wonder how much the big pharma communities and higher ups and elites that are in bed with the most disgusting aspects of our leadership, if we can call it that, are sitting there knowing what's to come and having a patent already for launch. You know what I mean?
Is funding. NIH resists our requests on their funds. The 2 things that we know for certain that have led us to believe this came from the lab that are big came because one was leaked, and this was a DARPA request. So the Chinese researchers in China wanted from DARPA money to create a virus that, guess what, looks exactly like COVID-19. They asked for it in 2018.
That's no embellishment. Exactly like what we ended up with.
We turned them down. Fortunately, we did the right thing for once. We turned them down. That doesn't mean they didn't do the research. And so many scientists had an aha moment. They saw this and they said, oh my goodness, they asked for money to create something that looks almost exactly what we got. So in nature, you do not have coronaviruses that infect people that have what is called a furin cleavage site. Chinese said, give us money, we were going to stick a furin cleavage site to allow it to infect humans more. We found out that not because you let us know or not because the NIH let us know, they still resist. This is top secret. This is classified. This is the whole problem of classification, but it's also to cover up things. So we don't know anything about the 28 thing, but
what Rand Paul and his team are requesting now, by the way, are not classified items.
We had an illegal leak that went to somebody in the media that's now public that said the Chinese wanted to create a virus just like COVID-19 in 2018. The other thing we know is 3 researchers in the Wuhan lab, in the Wuhan Institute of Virology, got very sick with flu-like symptoms similar to COVID in November. We only know that, though, because the Trump administration on the way out declassified it. So we have.
Sorry, what? Who? The guy that's getting indicted? The guy that's been indicted? He's the one that declassified extremely critical, important information that we have every right to know? Oh, that's the one. Right. But the Biden family, the Clintons, angels, I can see the halos.
We have to get over all the classification. We also have to be more forthcoming. And I'm hoping the chairman will consider looking at our requests. These are not partisan. We want to know all the information about funding of research in China. We want to know the interactions. There were cables going back and forth.
Why do we continue to give them money? They don't need it. They already own us.
Between the State Department saying, holy cow, they're not wearing gloves. They don't wear masks and doing this research. They're doing it in what's called a BSL-2 as opposed to a BSL-4. Most of the research that we think escaped was not done in the appropriate lab. And the State Department knew about it, but we've had no hearings about this. They refused to give us information. 15 million people died, 1 million Americans.
Private funding and lackadaisical oversight and security protocol. It's like they had every proper piece of the puzzle aligned so that something could go wrong, almost as if it was planned.
Died, and you won't give us information. So what I would ask is look at our request. This isn't partisan. This should be about discovering the origins of this. The scientific community is about 50-50 now, and I would hope.
You know what? Honest to goodness, excellent point, Didi. We don't give them our money. We're not mailing our money to specific institutions that end up doing whatever the hell their ambitions are. No, it's taken out of our earnings. And the more I personally look and learn into taxation, the more I finally come to this inevitable conclusion after all the years of being mostly an indoctrinated blue no matter who Democrat. And there are aspects of the left that I am unashamed of, but just everything has fallen completely, to the bottom surface level of what's important because of how crazy things are now in the present. So I do not believe a Democrat in office is in any shape or form a solution or an answer. 100%. This is now the second time I've said this out loud. I'm all for Trump to win the presidency. I want DeSantis on that same ticket, though, because my fear is that they would weaponize the fraction and factioning of a DeSantis versus Trump ticket. That concerns me, if they really wanted to play us more.
That we suspect the Chinese of not being honest and withholding information, but it's sad that the U.S. government is withholding information from its representatives.
I'll take back your request again, Senator. I would urge a briefing perhaps in a skiff with the intelligence community on this, because that
Needs the intelligence community to defer to before she sends what's supposed to be publicly available information over. Here's that Mallorca fella. This one I will play only tidbits of. I want you to see what it looks like when a man is paid to do a job and paid well and corrupt, when he is put into the spotlight to do the simplest of tasks. I was raised to despise Ted Cruz. He's got legitimate, fair, critical questions, and listen to this bureaucratic dance this Mallorca fella does, where it just makes me sick.
Recognize Senator Cruz.
Looks like Bezos.
Good morning, Secretary Mayorkas.
Good morning.
Is there a crisis at our southern border?
Senator, there is a very significant...
That's a yes or no question.
There's a very significant...
Is there a crisis?
Senator, there's a very significant challenge.
I think your microphone is not on.
Is the water wet?
There is a very significant challenge that we are facing.
Yes or no,
at the
is
southern
there a
border.
crisis?
I believe I've addressed that question.
So you're refusing to answer?
Senator, there is a very significant challenge, and
will you...
This is no time for a pissing contest. You were just presented with a simple yes or no question by a peer, I believe, at least in terms of your positions of authority. And this is the bullcrap that we're expected to be okay with. If we can't get a straight answer out of the people that are funded and entrusted with the security of anything in general, this is the last way I'd like to see them perform.
Answer if there's a crisis.
Therefore, we are dedicating the resources.
Okay, sorry, real quick. You work at McDonald's? Hey, Andrew, did you make the burgers? I'd like you to be aware of, Andrew, did you make the frickin' burgers? We have rigorous, by God, Andrew, I need these cheeseburgers ready right now. The customers are out there, man. Andrew, are the burgers ready? I believe I've substantially answered your question. Andrew, you're fired. That's how this should go.
So you're refusing to answer. Well, Secretary Mayorkas, I'll tell you someone who is willing to answer.
Oh, look at that hurt pride smirk right there. Those are my favorite. They go, good, down.
Which is your and President Biden's chief of the Border Patrol in a sworn deposition in July of 2022 when asked, would you agree, Chief Ortiz, that the southern border is currently in crisis? Answered, yes. Notice none of those wiggle words, none of that equivocation. One word, one syllable, yes. Are you willing to speak with the same clarity as Chief Ortiz? Is there a crisis at our southern border, yes or no?
Senator, could not have made it any easier to simply play ball here. And it's not even that. This is just a simple, this is being televised. This is being offered to the public. We're supposed to look at this. 1.4 million views. And you know what? Sadly, some part of me believes that that's not even the majority of Americans right there. Some part of me thinks that Americans are not invested or care enough about what all these things that are happening outside the indictment of Donald J. Trump.
Senator, I'm very proud to work alongside.
So you refuse to answer. Let me ask you the next question. Has the crisis at our southern border made Americans less safe, yes or no?
Senator, we are dedicated to the safety.
Has the crisis made Americans less?
This guy is not fit to take an order at McDonald's or be a cook to say, ding, it's ready. He'd be so busy saying, the procedures we're performing here in the kitchen are very critical to our mission of delivering burgers. Come on now. What is this even?
Less safe. I don't want a discourse. It's a yes or no question.
Senator, we have a challenge of...
You refuse to answer the question. Mr. Secretary, let me show you how someone doing his job answers a question in a straightforward manner. Chief Ortiz, is the crisis that is currently ongoing at the southern border making the border less safe for Americans and aliens alike? Answer, yes. One word, one syllable, 3 letters. That's how someone answers a question and does their job. You're being a politician, misleading the American people. Let me give you a chance again. Will you show the same integrity Chief Ortiz shows? Is the crisis at the southern border making Americans less safe? Yes or no?
Senator, we have 260,000.
You refuse to answer the question. Let's move on.
And security of the
Next
American
question,
people.
Mr. Mayorkas. Has the crisis made aliens less safe? Yes or no?
Senator, we are seeking.
So you won't answer that question either.
If you,
It's a yes or no. Has it made aliens less safe?
Senator, smugglers are exploiting.
Has the crisis made aliens, yes, less safe? Are you willing to answer it?
Senator, the smugglers.
Thank you, Jackie. Hello, Shabbat Shalom, aka Mama Bird over there. And Dumpling, it is amazing to see you again. Very happy to see you.
Smuggling organizations.
Okay, you're filibustering again. Let me ask you this question. How many migrants have died under President Biden?
Wait. Oh, okay. That's a very simple. It's his job. He's got to know maybe a number or round up, round down. Come on. It's not even just a. You can even dance around a yes or a no. Solid answer. Give it to us, man. Come on. Come on, man. Tell me you're going to do it.
Senator, your phrasing of the question is actually quite misleading.
How many migrants died in 2022?
He's a walking, talking CNN byline.
At our approaching our southern border?
Yes.
Precisely why we are seeking to exclude
So do you know the answer? Do you know how many died?
I do not.
You do not. Of course you don't. I know how many died. 800.
Wait. And we're going to get that number, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is this not the second individual that is granted authoritarian power and money by knowing the things they're supposed to know, which is literally in their job description, that says, I don't know? And the person asking the questions have the answers already, as if just to show what an embarrassment it is that these people are to themselves and to us as representatives of the US of A. Embarrassments.
So do you know the answer? Do you know how many died?
I do not.
You do not. Of course you don't. I know how many died. 853.
That is
853. And by the way, here are the numbers that have died every year. You go back to 1998, you see it's consistently between 300 and 400, 300, 400, 300, 400. Suddenly, 2021, what happens? You get in office, and that red line are dead bodies. I've been on the Rio Grande, and I've seen dead bodies floating there who've drowned because of your refusal to do your job. You don't even know how many have died. What do you say to the Texas farmers and ranchers who find pregnant ladies dead on their property, who find toddlers dead on their property? What do you...
I'm sorry. I wish I would have offered a bit of a trigger warning for the line of questioning and answering that this was going to go. But when it comes to free speech and the right to information as taxpayers, as citizens, you got to hear the hard truths.
What do you say to them?
I say that is why precisely we are taking it to the smuggling organizations.
But you are not. That is simply not true.
Number two, it is
let me read from the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal 2 weeks ago ran an article entitled, "It's like a graveyard. Record numbers of migrants are dying."
We're fighting for people who cannot fight for themselves.
I have not been that lost in just critical thinking for a long time, which is good.
The story begins with this chilling line, quote, Eagle Pass, Texas. Local officials keep a refrigerated truck to hold the bodies of migrants who drown in the currents of the Rio Grande while trying to cross the border into the U.S. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent that this article be entered into the record.
Just real-time thinking here. There's that cynical part of every American right now in general, because we've seen how far we've crumbled, especially when it comes to our institutions. So I'll admit to my own cynicism and skepticism when I hear Ted Cruz talk about with impassioned emotion. And I wonder, is this for show, or is he trying to appear strong, and is his voice just cracking, or does he really care? And I really, in my heart of hearts, I want to believe, I need to believe. Just like people that have the convictions in their faith for their higher power, I need to believe that maybe Ted Cruz cares about the issues he's talking about. It sounds that way, but I'm so disenfranchised. I'm so freaking depressed by the current state of things and all things, and I have the doubt. So please bear witness with me, and you be the judge.
Let me ask you a different question. How many children have been sexually assaulted by human traffickers under the Biden administration?
Oh, you better know this answer, you mother. You better have something better than an op-ed freaking byline headline where this is a misleading question. No, it's a pretty clear-cut question. Do you have an answer, representative of border security by the Biden administration? None of those words should be going together. Security, administration, Biden.
Senator, this is precisely why we instituted.
I don't want a lecture. It's a question. How many children have been sexually assaulted by human traffickers under your administration?
Senator, this is exactly why on January 5th we announced the parole
do you know
program.
how many? Do you know how many children have been sexually assaulted?
This is why we.
Okay, you're going to refuse to answer that question as well. Let's move on. It's obvious you've been instructed to stonewall, so I'm not going to let you. You don't get.
Okay, DD. You know what? I'm going to go right with you on that. Regardless of what's really behind this man's heart, he ain't sugarcoating a damn thing. Because under the sugar, it's still just nothing but a coat.
Get to stonewall and filibuster. Now, one of my Democratic colleagues before said the Democrat talking point, quote, this problem didn't start under Biden. Look, I get if you're a partisan spinner, you got to figure out something to say about the absolute catastrophe that has played out under the Biden administration. True or false, Secretary Mayorkas, 2020.
He's making it even easier. True or false? Come on, Mayorkas. I haven't gotten this far in the video prior. Come on, what do you got for us? True or false? It's real easy. And
was the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years. Is that true or false?
It is certainly the lowest level of immigration in many, many years. And what was it
in
2020? What was it, Senator, in 2020 that impacted the entire world, including the United States?
Okay, so your testimony is the reason we had the lowest rate was COVID. It had nothing to do with building the wall, nothing to do with any catch and release, nothing to do with Remain in Mexico. With all respect, Mr. Secretary, that answer is laughable. And in fact, if you look at...
I'm straight up waiting for Ted Cruz to jump up on the table, turn around and release his buttocks and say, kiss this right here, Mayorkas. Put that kiss in Mayorkas right on these cheeks.
Illegal immigration. Let's look at CBP encounters. You can see 500,000, 500,000. It drops to the lowest level and boom, what happens? You show up. And that red line is you. That red line is Joe Biden. And you're claiming nothing happened.
Oh, yo, straight up and no disrespect. I don't know who the lady is right here, but maybe it's his wife. Very, very possible. I swear it looks like this entire time she's been getting a little hot under the collar watching Ted Cruz just handle that business. Just saying.
Gosh, this was here before us. No, you made the decision to allow this to happen. Let me ask you.
If they won't take accountability, shove it down their throats.
We now have over 5.5 million people who've entered this country illegally under Joe Biden. How many murderers have you released into America?
Senator, I'm not aware of any murderer whom we've...
So you don't know?
Senator, let me say something.
Do you know?
If you take a look at...
No, you don't get to give a speech. Do you know how many murderers you've released?
I'm just trying to answer your question.
How many rapists
Senator.
have you released?
Senator, I'm trying to answer your question.
You can answer, I know or I don't know.
Senator, any individual who poses a public safety threat...
How many child...
This is not bipartisan anything. This is not even dialogue. This is, sadly, watching the Democrats get totally owned in every which way. They've had the White House for what, 12 years in total. I've been trying to catch up on the facts, especially with watching Russell Brand. What the hell has been accomplished? Honestly and truly, I no longer know anymore. I thought I was big for the Obamacare, and I saw what a catastrophe it was for the majority of American people. Now, it may have served me pretty well, but we don't dictate how well something is for an individual versus the grander community. Okay, so I had to watch my friends go through, for whatever reason, because we had the same skills, same jobs, just get shafted, ill, and they were treated like second-class citizens. And I was lucky enough, I guess, maybe because I needed a specific surgery that was at that time. So I don't know anymore what the Democrats are even standing for, except for political correctness, whatever the wokeism has become. I just don't know what they stand for. The squad and the progressive unit of whatever the DNC. I hate the DNC. There's no heroes on that side for me.
Child molesters have you released?
And removed into the United
What's up, Micro? Welcome, brother.
States, from the United States.
Oh, so your testimony under oath, subject to perjury, is that you have not released any murderers, rapists, or child molesters among the 5.5 million?
Subject to perjury, please. With that being said, let's see if he feels the same kind of heat, pressure, stress, anxiety as any one of us that was being told we were about to commit perjury if we did not give an honest answer. So let's see what kind of answer comes from Mayor Kiss My Ass.
Is that your testimony?
Mr. Chairman, may I have the opportunity?
No, you may not. You may answer my question.
You're not.
Is that your testimony? Yes or no?
Senator, you're not allowing me to answer your question.
I am allowing you to answer. I'm not allowing you to filibuster.
If you take a look at the pace of immigration in 2018 to 2019.
You're refusing to answer. Let's move on. Let's move on to gotaways. Gotaways are the people that get away that you know about. Now, what happened under your administration? Gotaways consistently down at this low line. Boom, you get in. And they go from below 180,000 to 600,000.
I didn't know this one. I did not know this one. Known gotaways. Huh. I guess that mail-in voting makes a lot more sense with that context, huh? Sorry, YouTube.
Now, I'll tell you this about a gotaway. You don't know among those 600,000.
Trisha, 100% facts. Say it again louder for the class in the back. Just about, I'd say, 90 percentile of politicians on every side are the chomos.
A year, you have no idea how many are murderers, correct?
That is precisely why the
correct?
number of gotaways.
Do you know how many of those are murderers?
That is precisely
so you refuse to answer the question. You know how
anybody remember Biff when he's older in Back to the Future too? McFly, we need a Biff right now to get on that bald head with a cane, a really hard freaking cane. Mayorkas, come on, Mayorkas.
How many are rapists? Do you know how many are rapists? This is a question. You're a lawyer. You know how to answer questions. Of the 600,000, do you know how many of them were rapists?
Senator, this is why
the answer is no. Let me ask you this. Do you know how many of them are terrorists? And I don't want to, Senator, here's my lecture on this. Do you know how many of the 600,000 gotaways were terrorists? Yes or no?
Senator, we are focused on this.
Shut the hell up. This is your job to know, man. Show us that you actually have an idea of what your job is by answering a question with actual substance. This is now getting me to a fever pitch. I cannot handle this anymore. I'm going to have a live breakdown. This is where our money is going.
I refuse to answer that as well. What's the result of massive gotaways? Well, one of the results is drug overdoses. And we now have last year over 100,000 overdoses. Who died, the majority from Chinese fentanyl streaming across the border. Now, you told Senator Cornyn you care, but look what has happened under your policy. When you open up the border to the worst illegal immigration in our nation's history, people die. You claim you care.
That one hits really close to home.
Mr. Secretary, that is a lie. You know, some months ago, Karine Jean-Pierre stood up at a White House briefing and said, people are not just walking across the border. Was she telling the truth?
Senator, you are
was she telling the truth?
So profoundly disrespecting.
Was she telling the truth?
22 years
okay,
of government service.
You get to answer.
You are so profoundly disrespecting every American that expects someone with a certain job class to represent that they know how the job even works by answering basic true or false, yes or no questions.
You don't get to give speeches.
Senator, I served as a federal prosecutor.
All right, you're refusing to answer. If you look at, she was lying, and she was not lying on her own. She was lying on behalf of the President of the United States. Now, the photograph, people. walking. She was lying on behalf of the President of the United States. This is a photograph from just one day along the Rio Grande of hundreds of thousands of people walking across the border. You have allowed this to happen.
Now multiply that by the entire duration while this man that can't answer or won't answer a single question, he's too busy playing bureaucratic ballerina over here. But imagine this and just multiply it by X amount of days, X amount of runs in one day alone. How often do images like this surface on our own ground?
The photograph that was before, what are these wristbands?
I don't know what they are.
You don't know what they are. Mr. Secretary, you have just testified to the American people you're incompetent at your job. Because I've been to the southern border, and if you go to the southern border, along the southern border, you see thousands of these wristbands because the illegal immigrants wear them. The drug cartels, every color corresponds to how many thousands of dollars they owe the cartels. You have turned these cartels into multi-billion-dollar criminal organizations, and these are modern-day leg irons because these are children being sold into sex slavery, and you don't even know what they are. That is astonishing.
This is a smoking gun drop bomb moment. I did not get this far into this video, into this hearing. I knew what the hell some of those bands represented. Not all of them, but I knew where he was going with this line of questioning. I did not in a billion years or in every day it has been to endure and survive on this planet within this country under this incompetence expect the man whose job with 22 years who's just touting say he had no idea what the hell those tags are. Holy shit.
Mr. Secretary, how many children have been sold into sex slavery under your administration?
Senator, we are taking it to the cartels.
How many children have been sold in?
Hello, Angel Wings. I'm so shocked. Like I'm at a loss for words right now. How is he going to backpedal? How do you backpedal from this? Like that was a moment. Like I was not prepared. I mean, in that moment, I believe I saw a real human being, which is exactly kind of what I needed, as depressing as it was. Look at his response. Nobody in that room expected Mayorkas, whose job it is to be on top of all of this, and his one moment to kind of shine and show some level of competency or knowledge about what he is tasked with, which is an important job for our security, for our homeland. And he just completely I can't believe how bad he made all of us look bad by being that stupid. He doesn't know what these are. He's never even been on the ground floor. What has he been doing with his time and our money?
What they are. Mr. Secretary, you have just testified to the American people you're incompetent at your job because I've been to the southern border, and if you go to the southern border, along the southern border, you see thousands of these wristbands because the illegal immigrants wear them. The drug cartels, every color corresponds to how many thousands of dollars they owe the cartels. You have turned these cartels into multi-billion-dollar criminal organizations, and these are modern-day leg irons because these are children being sold into sex slavery, and you don't even know what they are. That is astonishing. Mr. Secretary, how many children have been sold into sex slavery under your administration?
Senator, we are taking it to the cartels.
How many children have been sold into sex slavery? Do you know how many children have been sold into sex slavery?
To an unprecedented degree.
Mr. Secretary, I want to say to you right now, your behavior is disgraceful, and the deaths, the children assaulted, the children raped, they are at your feet, and if you had integrity, you would resign. And I will tell you, the men and women of the Border Patrol, they've never had a political leader undermine them. They despise you, Mr. Secretary, because you're willing to let children be raped to follow political orders. This is a crisis. It's a disgrace, and you won't even admit this human tragedy is a crisis.
Okay. This happened, as far as I know. I have as much access to everything we're seeing as you do 6 days ago. Okay. This is what's happening. We're showing the mass incompetence, lack of just basic general knowledge of their own function within their own title. They are being ousted for being completely corrupt, bureaucratic morons. And what is everything running with wherever you go? Trump has been indicted. Trump has been indicted. They won't even unseal what he's been indicted for. We can only speculate. Stormy Daniels' hush money that brings into question every politician that's ever been in a scandal. Okay, but this is what's happening in the background. You better bear that in mind. You have to bear that in mind. Do not fall for the mainstream tactics. Even when we escape watching it on TV, it's still happening. No matter where you pick and choose to go based on what your algorithm is saying. Hey, come here, look at this news about Trump, and did you hear this, that, and the other? And it leads you down a rabbit hole, the reverse rabbit hole. So it gets you further from the truth. And the truth is simply the reality as it's unfolding. And I am alarmed. I am absolutely terrified and absolutely seething with rage that these are the people that are living off of our tax dollars. And since, pay-to-pay politics is completely legal, they're living in lavish luxury, going on jets, going to islands, getting insider trading tips. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the United States of America being run by a bunch of clowns just doing nothing but wearing the makeup of their job title and knowing nothing of what the job entails. I will restructure the title. This is not about the movies and trailers I wanted to show you guys, and I do not feel the same level of energy I did when I started to go and show you a trailer for some neat movie, because this is what's happening, folks, and I don't know what more to say. The facts and the truth speak louder than any mainstream talking head. Truth is stranger than fiction, especially when you learn it. Please go out of your way to seek it. Truther is not a bad word. Conspiracy theorist is just another way of saying you know things that they don't want you to know. And it was invented to do nothing more than to blacklist you and ostracize you. Wear these titles with pride, because I think we're the last bastion, we're the last beacon of hope, if ever there was one, to exist for this country to move anywhere but backwards. And I don't know what to even say. This is the man that's supposed to be in charge of so many important things regarding families and children and the border and crime, and he just illustrated and undermined everybody that's putting their life on the line to keep things somewhat secure and functioning. He just made us all look like clowns on the grand world stage. But no, Trump got indicted because he had Michael Cohen pay some hush money to Stormy Daniels. We got to get that guy, get some high oversight on him, get him behind bars. Fuck out of here. All right, I tried not to drop the F-bomb. Almost lasted. Progressive Patriot, third person talking here, kind of creepy. I'm out. I am out. I am down for the count. I got to order a pizza and chill the F out. I think I'm shaking. Much love. Dawn, hashtag find Jamie Valdez. Please feel free to let Sean know I await any update regarding the case. Every opportunity I have, I talk about the case and everything regarding Anna and Ben Villarreal, the alleged corrupt police chief that completely ruined the investigation. Michael Trucker, Jeremy, Mr. President's birthday chat supervisor, please check him out. Queen Survivor, much love. I'm out. Good night. Take care of one another, but let's make sure that the who watches the watchman, you know what I mean? Let's keep our eyes on the prize here and let them know we're watching. Good night. Good night.